Hey race fans, it's race day, top 5 with me, Frank 5. Short track, under the lights action at Richmond Raceway. We had track position, worn out tires, side-by-side action, two of our main championship contenders battling for the lead towards the end of the race. The guy who opened up the playoffs with a victory, he just wants to keep racking up the points and keep it going until he gets to Homestead and wins that championship. Number 1, Martin Truex Jr. What can you say about this guy right now? He is literally on a roll, scoring his second win of the playoffs, the second win in the round of 16. The first time that a driver's opened up the playoffs with 2 wins since Matt Kenseth back in 2013. Truex captured the Federated Auto Parts 400 last night at Richmond Raceway, winning over teammate Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, and Ryan Newman. I mean, Truex, this guy, literally, ever since the playoffs have started, is literally turning it up at the right time to show everybody I'm the favorite to win the championship and nobody's going to stop me. I mean, that guy was literally one of the best cars all night long, won stage 1, stuck behind Kyle Busch in stage 2, but granted, both of them are from the same team and both are very good at Richmond, and now, they can compete with each other on a regular basis rather than just like having to few years compete as just corporate teammates in a ways and like who got the advantage over who. They're fairly equal for the most part. Truex literally had one of the best cars and took the lead in the middle of the final stage, and it looked like he was going to run away with it until just coming off the pit road from pitting for fresh tires, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets a elusive 3-4 and spins the leader around. And people were thinking, oh, Truex is going to be losing his mind, and that probably cost Truex the win. Truex did not back down, and on that last restart of the race, he fought and clawed his way to catch up to teammate Kyle Busch and pass him with less than 30 laps to go, ultimately taking the win away from Kyle, taking away more playoff points from Kyle Busch, and winning the race. That's Truex's second short track victory. Earlier this season, Martin Truex Jr. had never won a short track race. When we went to Richmond in the spring, he finally captured that short track victory. Now he's got 2. He swept both Richmond races this year. Truex finally is getting some short track luck, and that includes victories. Number 2, the Gibbs cars. Other than Martin Truex Jr., the other Gibbs cars were very strong. I'm talking about one of them towards the end of this segment. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, second and third place finishers, both very strong. Denny Hamlin, the Chesterfield, Virginia native, and one of the favorites going into Richmond, trying to go off a fairly poor performance at Las Vegas last weekend. A top 5 is definitely a good way to, get some momentum back, but really felt like he would be on a little bit better level compared to Truex and Kyle, who were clearly the class of the field last night. Kyle Busch coming off of all the scrutiny after Las Vegas, after running to the back of Garrett Smithley and running to the back of Joey Gase and calling him out and being literally kind of a jerk to the media post race, basically just pulling a Marshawn Lynch on the media, basically doing one-liners like, I'm just here so I don't get fined, felt great, no you can't pass there at Richmond. Well, actually, you could sort of pass last night, and Kyle Busch, kept his cool, won stage 2, and, I was a little concerned about what would Kyle say post-race after Martin Truex Jr. got by him late in the going. He was actually pretty calm in his interview and said, it's fair race, and he wasn't whining. He was very respectful to the media, and the thing is, you're a NASCAR driver, you're a champion, you're trying to be a role model to your younger fans. The way you acted last week was a little bit over the line, but, the comeback this week, finished second and being fairly calm and very respectful to the media. Kudos to Kyle Busch for keeping his cool despite not getting this victory. Number 3, Brad Keselowski, who started on the pole, looked to have the best of the Fords, honestly. He was the best of the Fords for the majority of the night. I felt like he could have a shot at competing with the Gibbs cars, but those Gibbs cars were just so strong, especially in the long runs, and good job at managing their tires and not really burning up the rear tires, especially in the long runs. Keselowski took a little strategy at the beginning of stage 2 after a caution for a couple of the playoff drivers. He was able to capitalize by coming to pit road and taking some fresh tires and moving his way up to the field and getting some stage points. And going into the Roval next weekend, Brad Keselowski with this 4th place finish and some stage points accumulated, he's got over 50 plus points, and you have to be at least 56 points going into the Roval with a chance to lock yourself in. If he earns some stage points next weekend, he should be just fine. I mean, 50 plus points, Brad Keselowski's automatically going to go to the next round nonetheless. Number 4, the playoff drivers, as far as the bubble goes, they all had mixed nights, and I'm going to talk about one of them because that's the major point at the end of this one. Ryan Newman came in outside the playoff grade. Newman put together a stellar performance last night. Welsh Racing brought some speed. Stenhouse was good too. He didn't get quite the finish he hoped for after contact with the 19 of Truex. Ryan Newman put together a performance that I have not seen out of the 6 car in a long time. Probably not since Matt Kenseth at Homestead or even Kenseth at the Brickyard when he was back and forth with Trevor Bayne in that 6 car last year. Ryan Newman, ever since coming to Roush Racing this year, has turned the 6 team around. They went from a top 30 team to a top 10, top 15 team almost the last couple of weeks leading up to the playoffs, and now that we're in the playoffs. Newman had such a strong performance last night. A 5th place is definitely a good run for him. As for some of the other guys, Ryan Blaney, not really the best at this track, 18th, that's his career best finish, and that was still a tie for career best last night. Eric Almirola struggled, Kurt Busch struggled, and he's the lowest of the playoff drivers right now. Well, he was until, well, I'll get to in a moment. And Clint Bowyer, top 10 performance is good. He's still outside the playoff grid, but it's only by 5 points. That can be made up, and we're going into the Roval next week. That's a road course race. Clint Bowyer is really good at road courses. I mean, you know, Bowyer always finds a way to put himself there. He finished in the top 5 last year. He finished 3rd in last year's race. So Clint Bowyer, if he wins, it's going to shuffle up the playoff grid. But nonetheless, a good performance by the 14 team. Some of the other guys, they got to manage their time as far as points, or they want to go for the win next weekend when we get to the Roval. And number 5, Eric Jones, who had a very poor start, the lowest of the playoff drivers coming in with 26 points below, pulled together such a strong performance by the Craftsman team and his crew chief, Chris Gale. They put together a very strong performance by driving up to the field, started outside the top 10, drove their way up into the top 5, earned some stage points, and he finished in the 4th position. But that was not the case, because post-race, and for people that don't know, people are wondering, oh, I thought you only take the top 3. You don't take the top 4 post-race. NASCAR chooses a random car to look over post-race and see if anything's wrong, and if something's wrong, they either fail them or they send them to the R&D center in North Carolina. Well, it turns out Eric Jones failed post-race inspection because of a issue with the rear end. Apparently, the ride heights were not correct. I think that's what it was. I can't remember. But because of that, Eric Jones was disqualified from the Federated Autosports 400. That's the first disqualification in the top Premier Series of the Cup Series this year. And instead of 42 points, which you earned last night, he only gets 1 point. He's 45 points out, basically, and a must-win going into the Roval next week. And the way he ran last year, considering he ran in a backup car and he had a lot of problems, Eric Jones fans, I'm safe to say this, but I don't think he's going to get to the next round. This is going to be a tough one because there's just a lot of good competition. There's guys next week going into the Roval that have so much road course experience that Eric Jones. Eric Jones has a win on a road course, but that was at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and we don't run there, and that was in the Truck Series. So, I don't know. I just don't see Eric Jones making it to the next round. It's going to be tough for him. Finally, Chase Elliott, 13th place finish because of Jones' disqualification. We just almost can never figure out Richmond. Got some stage points, 7 points total. Not bad, not great, but maybe it was 8 points. We earned some stage points in both stages, but we qualified well, and I was optimistic about a top 5 run and even a top 10, but just the final stage, we just couldn't get the balance right. But we have a 37-point cushion. 37 points. That's pretty comfortable, honestly. But I want some stage points next week, and then I'll let you know how I feel. Especially because we don't know what's going to happen on these races, especially going into Heartburn turn 1 is going to be difficult. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to a couple of non-playoff drivers that had some very good runs. Suarez a top 10. Stenhouse ran well, but didn't get a top 10. Jimmy Johns was up there most of the night, finished 11th. Bubba Wallace 13th place finish. I mean, he actually ran really well last night. He probably going to get a top 10 if we went longer in the race because he was competing with guys like Elliott Johnson and Joey Logano, who was struggling for most of the night. Bubba pitted early in the race, to just get off strategy and try to get a couple laps back. Took waiver on staying in the lead lap, got free pass. Just a strong performance by Richard Petty Motorsports. They've gotten some good results in last weeks, particularly that 3rd place at the Brickyard 400. The team's getting back into a steady rhythm where they can basically tell everybody we're not one of the back marker teams. We can be up front. We just need to have the cars and the track position to do it. And they had a good run last night. 13 is a good way for the 43 to come out with a solid performance. So, up next, the last race of the round of 16, the Roval, the Bank of America Roval 400. Which 12 drivers will advance? Well, actually, which 9 drivers will advance? Because Truex with the 2 wins and Harvick and Kyle Busch with a comfortable points margin, they are locked themselves into the next round. Which 9 drivers will join those 3 next weekend? Will somebody out of the bottom 4, like Eric Jones or Kurt Busch or Clint Bowyer or Alex Bowman, who had a pretty rough performance last night, will they be able to capitalize on some of the other drivers? Will they be able to capitalize on stage points and winning the race in order to lock themselves in? Only time will tell, and I will let you guys know I'm going to be at that race because I got tickets for it. It's a wonderful weekend. It's going to be very nice weather. Very excited for the Roval, and I cannot wait for the race. So subscribe, like, congrats to Martin Truex Jr. I'm going to be at the Roval next weekend, and I'll hope to see you there as well. Have a nice day.